One for the beat, two for the gusto. You got the beat, there's your cue, and you must throw. And you don't stop, and you don't stop. Check it out. We love the master.
Peace and Black Power family. This is Brother Agyei Tyehimba, founder and director of Harlem Liberation School, where we teach Black people to wake up, clean up, and stand up. Family, this is a little bit outside of what we would normally do, but being as this is the 50th, as they're saying at least, the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, I thought that I would do a series called Hip Hop 50. Hip-hop was started by poor Black and brown people in the hood, family. Let's be very clear. And I'm talking about in the South Bronx, when the landlords were paying gang members and all types of people to set fire to buildings, to burn the buildings down so they could collect the insurance and get the hell out of the South Bronx. The South Bronx used to look like a war-torn area, parts of it. Like you could walk stretches of the Bronx back in the day, and you would see bricks and glass and bottles and rats everywhere. It's just like in The Message when Melly Mel says, broken glass everywhere. It was like that. Broken glass, bricks. So you can really understand. It was Black and brown people in these neighborhoods in the South Bronx that came up with this genre that we call hip-hop. Hip-hop was not started by people of privilege. It was not started by celebrities. Hip-hop was not started by rich people, family, that was born with silver and gold and titanium spoons in their mouths. Hip-hop was created by the people that this society considers the bottom of the barrel, but who God and the divine considers its chosen people. Hip-hop was started by the descendants of the original people of this earth. These are the descendants of the people that created those pyramids and that discovered the principles of math and physics and art and law and music. Their descendants started hip hop, and those people were Black and brown. And so it's important we have that history, because remember, in late 77, the adults, people my age, were telling people that were 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, what is that crap? Turn that down. That ain't gonna last long. That's some trend. That sounds like garbage. That's what they were saying. No one but the young people believed in hip hop. Nobody thought it was going to last more than a year or two, family. Now, people accept hip hop. Now, white pop singers got hip hop dances and are doing hip hop choreography. Now, you could barely turn on a commercial on the Tell Live Vision without hearing some hip hop music and some type of hip hop reference. Now, hip hop has radio stations that just play hip hop music. It started out in a tiny section of the Bronx, spread to Harlem, spread to Brooklyn, now Staten Island, Long Island, whatever. It was only in New York, family. Now hip-hop is all over the country. You got brothers in the South, thanks to brothers like James Prince, Rap-A-Lot Records. You got hip-hop, NWA, you got Dr. Dre, you got all these people. Hip-hop is all over the country and all over the world. Hip-hop was started by people considered at the bottom. Do you know how they used to talk about the Bronx, family? They talked about the Bronx. First of all, the Bronx leads the country, or at least New York City, in all of the worst statistics. More people got asthma in the Bronx. More people die of AIDS in the Bronx. More great infant mortality in the Bronx. The Bronx was at that time the poorest of the poor, and people looked down on the Bronx. So people that came out the Bronx had more gangs than anywhere. If the whole movie, The Warriors, if you saw the classic movie, The Warriors, is loosely based on the fact that this Bronx gang was in Brooklyn and had to run all the way back to Bronx because the Brooklyn people were trying to kill them because the Brooklyn gangs thought that they had killed their leader, Cyrus. Get it? Cyrus. Oh, Cyrus from Kemet or Egypt. That's another story for another time. But the Bronx had hundreds of gangs. Savage Nomads, Savage Skulls, Black Spades, hundreds of gangs, and it was notorious and treacherous. You could not just walk through the Bronx back in the 70s. Family, if you were not a member of a gang and you didn't represent a nation, because they saw themselves as nations, they had flags. Those patches they wore, those colors were flags, family. And you couldn't just go up into any place in the Bronx. You would get stuck up, beat up, or killed. That's just what it was. I had one of the heads of the Black Spades on, Tiny, and he told the whole story. He said, and he said they formed to protect themselves because black people were getting beat up by the Irish and other white kids in gangs. So gangs were started for protection, right? Now, hip hop, those gang influences were strong in hip hop. Hip hop became the way, wasn't just music. Hip hop was a culture. It was a way for people to maybe leave a life of killing and stomping people out and robbing people and breaking in people's houses, family. And to use their energy and creativity, parlay that into some music. And also I gotta tell you that the 5% nation of gods and earths, peace to the gods and the earths, were very heavily involved with hip hop. The B-boys used to stand a certain way with their arms crossed and their feet at a perpendicular like that, at a square. Where'd they get that from? They got that from the gods, because the gods stood like that, right? So there's a lot of history that's not in the books, but we need to talk about that. Now, having given you some of the background, let me see some of my people. My brother Avery, who we know in Sugar Hill, Harlem, his brother Ross, part of the mighty F Troop MCs. Those are my boys coming up in Harlem. F Troop. You know, we got brother Scotty Reed, who says he was in 6th grade when Sugar Hill Gang blew up on the radio. Right. See, I remember that. Right. And Sister Joy Stratton says that absolutely 100% they done hip hop dirty and now it's out of control. Right and exact. Now, I want to talk about what hip hop meant to me. See, I was a Harlem MC. I'm approaching this not just as a person that listened to hip hop. I was part of hip hop. I rhymed. I remember going every Saturday, man, going up to my brother Dwayne Roper. I don't know if he's in the thread, but he started a crew called F Troop MCs. And this brother was amazing. He was like a big brother to me. He lived right in the next building to me in Harlem. And this brother was hip hop. He could do electric boogie dance. He was a master graffiti artist. He had a crew called NTA, or No Toys Allowed. He was known throughout the whole city for his tags on whole train cars, family. We're not talking about a piece of paper. We're talking about art that's taking up an entire New York City train car, and sometimes more than one, right? This brother mastered electric boogie. He mastered graffiti. He was a DJ. He did it all. He really did do it all. And he was an MC. So I used to go up to his apartment, which is right next to my building, and he'd be DJing, doing graffiti art, sometimes at the same time. And he's the reason I got into being an MC. Because I used to hear him rhyme. And I was a poet. I was a young guy writing poetry, elementary school, middle school. And I said, man, I could do this. I like this. I like putting my poetry to music, saying something that expresses who I am, what I'm about. What I think of myself, what I think of the world, what I think of girls, everything. So for me, hip hop was a way for young people to connect with each other, to connect with themselves, to express themselves authentically. Not some white reporter downtown talking about how we feel, or some news report. Because back then, family, coming up in Harlem, the news reports used to say that a man in Bangladesh, which then was the poorest country in the world, had a better chance of making it to the age of 25 than a black man from Harlem. I heard these reports all my life growing up. Black men, the average black man won't make it to 21. The average black man will be locked up by 18. It was ridiculous. I came up in the 80s, family. So in the 80s, I was a teenager. And in the 80s, it was crack vials everywhere. You could walk, and people on here, Ross knows what I'm talking about. You could walk from where I was, 143rd, to maybe 145th, 147th, crack vials covering the sidewalks, family. People selling crack on every block, and several of them. Some people ran a whole block selling crack. And you would see cheese lines, which by that we mean you'd see a building on the corner, and it'd be a single file line of black people and brown people all the way down the block. Some dressed nicely in suits and dresses going to work. Some clearly maybe homeless and unkempt and dirty. What were they standing there for? They were waiting to get their drugs. And the cops would go by drive by all the time, knew exactly what was going on and didn't do anything. Why, Agyei? Why didn't the cops stop it? Because the cops were getting paid by the drug dealers for information and to let them sell drugs. I know what I'm talking about. I wasn't involved in that activity, but I wrote the book of Agyei Tyehimba, and you may know him from the trio of young Harlem drug dealers, Agyei, Alpo, and Rich Porter, right? So I wrote his life story. So I got it from the horse's mouth, right? This is what happened. I remember seeing cheese lines of people all the way down the block, wrapped around the corner waiting for drugs. I remember how this crack and all this made upstanding sisters in the community get into prostitution and get drugs. I remember how brothers used to play ball at PS 153 all day, every day on the weekends, and all of a sudden you go by the park and it's empty. Because if the brothers that used to play ball wasn't selling drugs, they were trying to get drugs. It completely decimated our communities. It made the finest girl that you was attracted to. You say, oh my God, I love that girl. You see her, she's on crack. Now, the girl that you used to dream about, who wouldn't give you the time of day, is saying, if you give me $10, I'll do this. It was a sad time, fam. And it was a time that was created to destroy us. But our enemies don't know who we are. Somebody better tell them they don't know who we are, because we're the descendants of the same people that they dragged from Africa, minding our own business, running our civilizations, and brought here to the United States to be their slaves. And they thought that would wipe us out, right? Then they colonized parts of Africa and other parts of the world where our people were, the African diaspora, Brazil, Haiti, Cuba, all these places were African. And they sprinkled us all over the place, thought that would break us. And it didn't, right? So the point is, we are their descendants. We are strong. If you put us in the worst situations, we're going to find a way. We're going to find a way. Right now, I'm going to go to my brother Avery, or who I knew as Ross, to his comment. He said he heard the Cold Crush 4, Fantastic 5 and 6, Force MCs from one of his closest friends and next to brother Frank. Yeah, about 2 years before the Sugar Hill Gang dropped in '79. And when he heard the Sugar Hill Gang, he felt like it was cool, but it was kind of commercial. Yeah, it was kind of corny because we was hearing that the pure stuff, right? From cassette tapes back then. You would hear battles, right? And you would hear, yes, Grandmaster Caz. Kumo D lived not too far from us, Brother Ross, a little bit downtown, 120 something. Treacherous 3, we heard it. We heard these brothers. Spoonie G. I ran to Spoonie G around the way a few years back, right? So we heard the pure stuff. We were kids. And then we heard the Sugar Hill Gang. We liked it, but it wasn't what we had heard earlier from the cassettes, from the brothers on the streets. And we should mention that the Sugar Hill Gang, Rappers Delight, they took all of those rhymes from Grandmaster Caz of the Cold Crush Brothers, just in case y'all don't know. And he never got paid for that, and he never got real credit for that. But we got to put that out there. One of the worst things you could do in the hip hop world, and this tells you about Generation X family, was to bite, was to be unoriginal, was to copy somebody's rhymes and say it was, and make it seem like it was your own. We were big on being original, the original words of an original person. You would never wanted to get caught somebody saying you bit somebody's rhymes or you stole or copied somebody's rhymes, right? All right, now, what Brother Ross brings up is a very important memory I have. Elementary school, I was what you call, there's corner kids and there's stoop kids. If you watch The Wire, you know what I mean. If you ever watched The Wire series, the corner boys, the corner kids was the kids that either they didn't have rules in the house or they had rules and they broke them. They got into more fights. They got into a little more trouble. Usually got into lives of crime a little early. Maybe gangs, maybe selling drugs. The stoop kids were the kids that had rules and they obeyed the rules. I was a stoop kid initially. I wasn't running with the gangs. I wasn't selling drugs. I wasn't doing it. I was going to school, church, coming back home, going to my grandparents' house. But the point is that in elementary school, I remember it had to be fifth, sixth, or 5th or 6th grade. This brother named Perry. We went to a school called the School on the Hill on 145th Street in over Convent. And he would tell us about these battles. Now how he was able to go, I don't know. But he said his older brother would take him to some of these the parks in the Bronx, and he got to hear some of the battles, and we loved his stories. And I think a few times he played a little bit of tape for us. We heard some of the tapes at recess, right? And I was like in love with hip hop from there. In love with hip hop. And I used to be like, man, I wish I could do that. I'm too young, but one day I want to try doing it. And then I met Roper, Dwayne Roper. We call him Roper, Rope Diddy, Rope D, right? And Revon, whatever. He's here on Facebook. I don't know if he's in the thread. He, as I said, introduced me formally, officially to hip hop because he DJ'd and he was right next door to me or next building. So we would go up there all the time and I would rhyme, right? And of course, he was experienced. He had his own crew called F Troop, right? Uh, which, as Ross says, stood for the Four Troopers, right? And I just want to give them some respect. First of all, we got to shout out my brother Beelan, and we got to say rest in peace and rest in power. It broke my heart when I ran into Ross and he told me Beelan had died. He had a shirt on with Beelan's picture, and I came to his funeral and I just couldn't believe that my man was gone. He's a fellow tourist. He was one of the smoothest MCs, original, beautiful flow, highly intelligent, and very charismatic and confident. And so it was Beaven. It was my man Avery. I'm gonna put him up right now. The brother right there whose comment you see facts. That's Avery. We knew him as Ross, and his name was Kid Superb. And Kid Superb was smooth, man. Kid Superb had the smooth stuff, right? I think all of them were about a year or two older than me. Also, Kid Superb. We had Rob Ski G, who lived on my block. Shout out to brother Rob Ski G. And of course you had Rope or Dwayne, and we had my man who lived right across the street from me on 143rd, TYE, who was smooth too, right? That's the F Troop crew. I was so impressed by what they were doing. I was a little bit younger, and I was a little bit more of a stoop kid. I kind of went to school, went to church, and came home, went to my grandparents, right? But I was so influenced by the F Troopers and my man Rope that I was like, man, I'm going to do that too. So I started out. They had already formed F Troops. So I wasn't down with them. And I tried to start my own little crew called TNT Top Notch 3. Then it became Top Notch 2. Me and my brother, my best friend at the time, brother named Mark from 147th Street. And then a DJ named Jazzy Moto, Eric, known as Jazzy or DJ Jazzy Moto, used to sometimes, be like, yo, Q, if he saw one or two and say, yo, man, come up, man, let's spit something. And he would like be cutting, right? So I went up to his house a few times. He'd be like, yo, what's up? And this was spontaneous. This wasn't scripted. He said, hey, what's up? My name was Quentin, my born name. So he'd be like, yo, Q, man, what's up, man? I'd be like, come through. I'd be like, all right, so I'll come through right on the spot. He's cutting it up in his apartment, and I'm just rhyming. We're making tapes. That's how it went. Very spontaneous. Because if you were a real MC, you should be able to rhyme right on the spot. I see Brother Earl in the building. Brother Earl. Now, Brother Earl, this is what I mean by history. He says hip-hop history. He's right and exact. We know him today as Brother Earl. I met Brother Earl for the first time, so I thought, at a place that was like a speakeasy in Harlem called the Sugar Shack. Shout out to Odell. Shout out to Sister Francis. And the Sugar Shack every Wednesday had a open mic poetry night. And so I met Brother Earl for the first time. So I thought doing spoken word poetry. We now both spoken word MCs, and I had great respect for Brother Earl's craft. I thought he was nice. He had a little flow, had a little bit of that flow, confident, and he talked about things that mattered. He didn't talk about foolishness. Because you got some spoken word artists, no disrespect, they kind of talk about foolishness. But Brother Earl always brought something serious. you know, and I respected that. Something conscious. And I think he respected me. I can't speak for the man, but I think he did. Well, guess what? Jazzy told me one day, he said, you know, Brother Earl, right? The spoken word dude. I said, yeah. Yeah. He said, man, you know you met him, right? I said, when? He said, bro, when you was like 15. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Turns out that Brother Earl was, I believe, known as Easy AZ. I could be wrong, Brother Earl. Correct me, brother. I believe Easy AZ or AZ at the time. And Jazz was trying to get me to be part of this new group called the Too Much Brothers that Brother Earl was down with already. So a few times he took me to the Bronx and I rhymed, and you know, there's kind of like audition and they checking me out. I like this, I don't like that. That's whack that he did. I like this, whatever. Right? So this one time we went and we taped it, and what I played for you, I'm gonna play a little bit again. I want you to hear my boys, Brother Ross, Kid Superb. I want you to hear Brother Earl. I'm gonna play a little bit of that now. Hold on.
But rockin' the mic, see, like the ladies when you wear your jeans tight, just chill on out. And we can have a ball, so don't stand there looking funny, leave it on the wall. Get out to see and participate, you know another new rhyme I will create. So when the music is over, the party is done, you can walk out the door saying you had some fun. My name is EC, you know I'm number one, the numero, the greatest MC under the sun. Cause I'm amazing EC without a doubt. But let me tell you what amazing it spells out. The A is for amazing, which I am all the time. The A is for the magic that I put in my rhymes. The A for all who like my stuff, you know the Z for the simmers. I had to shut
That's
up.
Brother
Earl. For Imperial, the kitchen.
Back in the day.
The A for the nasty girls that like me. The G for the gusto that I make. And when it's all spelled out, you know he's great. Amazing EC. And I got what it takes to buy to break guitar. Never get me wrong. Cause my rap is strong, so we can see. You know your rap is tough, so get all the shit.
This my man Beaven. Rest in peace to Beaven.
Over mic, you know that I do work to the sucker MCs who try to jerk.
Rest in peace.
Rhyme, and always for time, I might not be a 10, but a 9.9. Far back as I remember, and we're like this.
Like this.
Said he was in the top 10 list.
Top 10 list.
No, to be an
MC.
That rhythm, that is the key. You're always frontin' and you try to break. You should be on the box, call the first to play. Like Tony, the Tiger, when I dominate, it's the sucker MCs. They yell out great, but we listen to them and they waste our time. Put shit in it together and you call it a rhyme. Be whack as hell with rhymes that pays long, but you open your mouth and it comes out wrong. Your mouth sour like a lime. You try to play it, it's not the rhyme, but the way you say it. Remember that statement that I said when we make an X5, it comes out dead. And when you hit a 12C, you think of the time that the mellow brother BB did that first rhyme. So just check it out, cause I can rock without a doubt. And every time I rock a rhyme, you know I make it one to shout. So other MC called BBD, gonna pass it till the MC calls the ST.
To tell a story with my rhymes is what I prefer. First of all, definition or as a word, I explain the situation in terms.
Pretty soon, my man Ross is gonna come up.
But I'm a pro
Here in the thread, he's going by the name Avery. His technical name, I guess.
Might arise, say a boat full of MCs, I'll capsize, or free the young DJs, they'll realize there's nothing more than me than exercise.
Yeah, I want to thank all of y'all for joining us, man. I'm still here. I'm just putting that symbol up so you can see it.
Treat the whole crew just like dead peasants.
Thank you, Sister Joy.
Get set, cause the rhymes I recite throughout the night still indicate, yet abbreviate the message I would like to accommodate. But much further than this, I'd like y'all to know, wherever I go, I feel the show. It's like that, yo. It's like that, yo. So the voice is bass, E flat, yo. Now in the home of the brave and the land of the free, you can be anything that you want to be. Well, I've heard this before so many times, I thought that I better put it down. Now no matter what you know or truly believe, limitations are set or what you can achieve. Now whether you're left out, whether you're left in, it's all based upon the color of your skin. Now there are times in your life when you want to give in, cause it seems that this game you cannot win. But you must continue, you must strive on, for every black child has yet to be born.
Yeah, 40 years, Brother Earl. It's crazy. 40 years ago. That's crazy.
Think that we can't succeed? We come a long way from slavery.
Trying to wait for my man Ross' part.
But it won't mean a thing unless we all take note.
Stay with me, family. Got more I want to share with you. I want you to hear us back in the day. So you know that we was down with this thing called hip hop.
That's like that, yo. That's like that of the that and bass black show. It's about that.
It's superb. That's my man Ross. Come on, Ross.
It's definite that you will benefit, cause my voice is not a quit and it's surely legit. No, this is not
not a con when I say my word is bond. The sucker MCs are like ducks in a pond. The mic is where I dwell. You're on my carousel. My rhymes are so deaf that you must repel. Yes, round and round. That's the way it goes. And where you stop, only the F truth knows. I can tell you, listen up or you blue. But the sounds that you hear are from a brand new crew. We're crazy unique with the rap technique and a move that was proved we can never do it. Look at my charm, it won't do no harm. And in my mind I got a built-in fighter's alarm. So don't recite, think before you bite. That truth just might break the door tonight. I got it made in the shade like the ace of spades. Just chillin', no dealin' while I'm on my crusade. Beat the K, the I, a little bit shy. Pull a thrill out the hat and it ain't no lie. But that's y'all. On my first try, give it all to the man cause I can't deny. So JC, hi, I heard you was good.
Now, I'm gonna go back, family. That's original, authentic hip hop. And the brothers corrected me. I thought it was 84. That's 83, family. I was 15 years old, family. I'm 55 years old, family. This is 40 years ago. These are brothers that was young, that was creative, right? And I want you to notice in those lyrics, ain't nobody talking about hurting nobody, killing nobody, robbing nobody, raping nobody. Because that's not what the frequency was. That's not what the frequency was. Now I gotta let you hear TYE and myself from the beginning. Bear with us, fam. We're gonna be here for a little while. Bear with us.
You got TYE down with the F Troop. Yeah. Commodore QDS down with Too Much.
Yeah.
Amazing Easy down with Too Much. The Captain BVD down with F Troop. Superstar SD down with Too Much. The Kid Superb down with F
Good memories.
Robski G down with F Troop. And the JC down with Too Much.
This is hip hop history. It's not just celebrities, family. These are the people that laid the foundation. People like us. That wasn't rich or famous. We had something to say.
You got the beat, there's your cue, and you must throw. And you don't stop.
Yeah, that's brother DJ Jazzy Moto Talk.
Out of all MCs, climbing to the top using rhymes like
rest in peace, Jazzy.
They'll soon get dissed. Come out with shit like this. Listen up to what I said. Let it sink in your head that I'll be writing my rhymes, not writing instead. Cause writing is a crime. You should be doing time. You can bite anybody as long as they're not mine. Cause I sit down for hours to make sure they're right, either early in the day or late at night. You know it really don't matter. Because you see, I only say it if it's fresh and it came from me. So if you want to start a quibble because you want to nibble, I make a rhyme so fresh it'll make your lips dribble. Then you'll be drooling, cause I'm not fooling. In a battle one-on-one, you know I'll be ruling with an iron fist. So don't get pissed, I just hit you hard cause you're on my list. And on the other hand, I'm sorry my man, I just want to show you exactly where I stand. I think I said enough cause I'm being a little rough. I know
he's passing it to TYE,
yes,
who's down with F
Jazzy's my name. If you come out your face, I'll react
right across the street from his brother TYE.
Just turn on your mic and start to recite.
Call me the rapper at all with rhymes galore.
Hey.
The hyperculture sounds that you can't ignore, and the after effects of my rhymes correct. When the mind and the rhyme just pursue to connect. And I'm unusual select, and on the microphone and put them deep in check. I'm the T Dash, yes I got class.
Yes, I got class.
Y'all never coming last.
Coming last.
First online, and one of a kind, and to another sucker empty. I'm genuine. Yes. While we rockin' the pot, give it all on my man.
And I'm up next, Commodore QDS. This is me, 15 years old, family.
Now that I have the mic in all its glory,
voice is different.
My creation story, a story about how I created the rhyme while in my quest to be the best of my time in MCing and doing the do. And now, part of people, it is your cue to keep my words from going astray while I relate to you the story of that creation day. You see, when time begun, I chose to pretend that like a circle, I had no beginning nor end. But then I found out, yes, what life is about taking sucker MCs right on out. So I decided to put my vocabulary to use, and without hesitation, I should not lose the words from my mouth was sharp as a knife, and into the microphone I breathe my breath of life. Now I've said it many times, and to God I have sworn that this is how the microphone was born. But I observed that something else was essential. A fresh golden voice was put official. The funky fresh rhymes were also on my list, and don't you know that I became an MC ventriloquist? And like a man up above, I looked at all I had done and found it in the race of MCs. In the race of MCs, in the race of MCs, I come in number one, not number two, not even number three. The Q, I double and IES-D double E. It's an easy man at my side. Get on the.
That's it, family. That's myself. It's a F Troop MCs, and that's Too Much Brothers. Got brother Earl, man, is right here with us for the Too Much Brothers. We got Brother Ross or Kid Superb, going by the name Avery on our Facebook. Right there, that's Brother Ross. Brother Ross in the building. And Brother Earl's in the building. It's really a blessing to be alive and to know that some of the brothers you used to rock with are still alive, man. That's really a blessing. Now, I do want to go back to make sure that I say a few things. I wasn't a pro, Sister Joy, but I appreciate the compliment. I was young. My voice was kind of high, completely different. I'm talking about how I created the microphone. Is corny when I hear it now, but for 15 back then, it was all right, you know. And what did hip hop mean to me? What did it mean to many of us? And I want y'all to type in your comments, and I'll show them. What did hip hop mean to you? All right, Brother Michael Moore says he can listen to it all day. That's what's up. What did hip hop mean to you? Please answer that question. Put it up so I can put your comment up on the screen. For me, hip hop was expression. The news tried to say who black people were. The history books tried to tell us who black people were. The teachers tried to tell us who black people were. This was our chance to say who we were. That's our chance to say what I believe about things, how I see myself, how I see the world. It's a chance to brag and be braggadocious, right? Because we've been beat down so much. The society told us we are nothing, have nothing, can be nothing. Hip hop gave us the ability to say, nah, man, fuck what you heard. I'm that dude. Right? So a lot of rhymes back then was talking about you getting girls, you being attractive, you having nice clothes, you being smooth and cool, you having game, you being strong, you playing sports. It was braggadocious because we were beat down so bad and told that we were ugly and stupid and couldn't do nothing and couldn't get right. Right? So it's very important that we understand that's what it meant to me. And I was a poet anyway. Hip hop gave me another avenue to do my poetry. And let me tell you something. Hip hop gave me confidence. You know why? Because see, back when we was coming up, you battled dudes. You know, I remember we would go, sometimes me and Mark would go around looking for people and battle them. Right? Not to like, not fighting them or nothing like that, but just lyrical, showing your lyrical dexterity, to show your prowess with words. And you had to rhyme out your head. You couldn't just be writing rhymes. Because what? If you ran into somebody in real time, you couldn't pull out no rhyme you wrote a month ago about somebody else and use it on that dude. So you had to rhyme out the head. So it taught me to be confident. Because, you know, sometimes we in a park and we rocking a summer jam and there may be hundreds of people out there and you're performing in front of them, right? So if you could do hip hop properly, you'd be able to speak in front of crowds. Now, look, after that, I would go on off to high school and I would go on to college at Syracuse University, then Cornell, then the University of Massachusetts, and become a community leader and activist in all of those different colleges and in the community of Harlem. And one of the things that gave me the ability to speak comfortably and effortlessly in front of big crowds was my experience as a hip hop MC. My not giving a damn what anybody thinks about me or what I say largely comes from hip hop, fam. You understand? Comes from that hip hop experience. It gives you a confidence. Gives you I don't care what nobody says about me. If I can stand in front of people and say what I gotta say, some people may boo, some people might like it. It builds confidence, right? And so as I got older, hip hop took a turn. I'm sure that Ross and Brother Earl, anybody here can bear witness. Hip hop took a negative turn. Prior to that, we were kind of bragging about how we looked and the girls we had and stuff like that, and how smart we were, you know. And then it kind of went rogue. Hip hop went gangster because the white man got control of hip hop. See, when it was in the Bronx and Harlem in those early days, the white man didn't have control. He didn't even know it existed yet. Remember, nobody thought hip hop was going to last this far. Biggie told you never thought that hip hop would make it this far. Biggie's telling you, right? So Oh, thanks, Freedom Power. He liked my rhyme. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And Sister Joy, thank you for that. So these people, white man didn't control hip hop. We had it, right? And around the 80s, man, late 80s, you had Kumo D, very few, Curtis Blow, a whole lot of rappers didn't have records at the time. So if you had a record, that was a big deal. Spoonie G, man, crazy. Love Rap, crazy. Super rapping, crazy, right? So in the early 80s, there wasn't a lot of people on wax like that. And then once it got to the 90s, it went crazy. It went ballistic. And once the white man sniffed around and said, that smells good. That could get us some money. Let's put these people on. That's when it got corporate and commercial, and it went a whole different way. It made many people in our community rich and famous, but it also, they started getting control of the industry. And even Professor Griff, who used to be with Public Enemy, has an interview, and he says that that the artists that were kicking the rape rap and the drug, the hustling rap, and I'm gonna kill you rap, were offered contracts and were encouraged and promoted by record labels. And the brothers like KRS-One, Brand Nubian, X-Clan, Poor Righteous Teachers, Big Daddy Kane, and some of these people were kind of not supported and promoted as much. But in the golden age, in the 80s, you heard a diverse type of rap, and you usually didn't hear about killing. You might have heard a little bit of hustling from people like a Cool G Rap. And then it took that turn, and when it took that turn, that kind of hurt those of us who wasn't into that. So I got Joy knows what I'm talking about. Yes, yes, Spoonie G. Yes, yes, indeed. When it took that turn, those of us who wasn't for the murder and all that, you know, we like the beats, we like the lyrical flow. People like Biggie, we ain't taking nothing away, but we yearned for the good old days. So many of us, and I think Brother Earl, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to speak for you, but many of us, like myself, and I think Brother Earl, made a decision that we were going to go a different direction into spoken word poetry. And spoken word poetry, we took the hip hop cadence, the cadence of our hip hop style, and we poured it into spoken word poetry, which, like hip hop, was performative, kind of braggadocious, right? And instead of going the gangster hip hop way, we went in conscious lyrics, political lyrics way, right? So I would start making stuff like, this is my thesis. There's wicked propagandists using telekinesis, manipulating minds to manifest what master pleases. It ain't your fault. Y'all think sugar and salt represent the same color as Jesus. But peep it, this shit is deep, kid. We've been put to sleep, kid, with hypnosis. And the diagnosis is we suffer from an acute psychosis. Wannabes imitating whatever culture is closest. But the answer to our Eurocentric cancer is blackness, baby, in large doses, right? So we transit, we take the same braggadocious energy, the same confident energy, the same cadence and swag, and we put that into a political format using spoken word poetry. So I thank God for hip hop, and I thank God for spoken word, because it gave some of us an outlet that didn't want to go that gangster rap style, and the hustling rap and all that. So it's very important that you understand that this hip hop thing, man, is so much bigger than just another genre of music. This hip hop genre has fed people's families, has given people who may have felt ugly or unintelligent, it gave them a sense of somebodyness. It gave them a sense of, wow, I'm skilled at something. Any MC in this thread who used to MC back in the day knows the feeling of being at a jam or a party, and you rock the mic, and a young lady who you found attractive said, hey, I like that. I like your rhyme. I like what you were saying. Or a brother said, hey, man, that was tight. Them lyrics was tight. That gave you a sense of pride you may not have gotten in school. You may not have gotten on the team you played for. And unfortunately, some of us didn't get it home. So hip hop meant a lot. It was an economic engine. You know, some people, and here's the other thing, it wasn't no one way to get into hip hop. You could be a DJ and you could have that ear for music and timing, right? And a musical sensibility. Boom, you be a DJ. You could be a person that wasn't a DJ, wasn't an MC, that wasn't good with words, but you had rhythm and cadence and flow, and you felt the music, and you was a b-boy, and you did boogie, or you was breakdancing, and you may have been in hip and did none of that well, but you were an artist. So you took your hip hop sensibility and spirit and ethos, and you poured that into graffiti. So we had people that did huge murals on walls. I think I may have, I don't know if I told you this, but I really wish Dwayne Roper was on this thread, man. This brother was so important to me. He was like a big brother in terms of in the neighborhood, in terms of hip hop. Um, One day he said to me, brother, you want to go see movies? Spend the whole Saturday watching movies downtown. We had a movie theater right on 5 blocks away called the Nova that had cheap movies. But it's like, let's go downtown. We're gonna eat. I was like, yo, Rope, I'm in middle school, bro. I don't have no money. I don't have no money. He said, man, don't even worry about it. Come upstairs with me. We went up to his apartment. He played some music. I believe he put on something like Headhunters, which went. So he's playing that. I'm rhyming a little bit. I was whack. I was new to it back then. He pulls out a canvas about as big as like let's say a 32-inch flat screen, a canvas, blank canvas for artists. Takes a few spray paint cans, he tagging, he makes a piece of art right there in front of me. Took about 15 minutes. Finished it up. He said, okay, brother, let's go. So where we going? I said, man, just go. So we jumped, we'll go to 145th Row. We hop on the bus. It's now called the 19 bus. Back then it was called the 30 bus. We go from Broadway all the way across to the Bronx, which isn't really a long ride, to 149th Street and 3rd Avenue. 149th Street and 3rd Avenue was in the Bronx. It was a very popular shopping area for black and brown people, poor black and brown people. They sold everything, sweaters and coats and socks and drawers and school stuff and school supplies. And they had fast food restaurants, you know. We go to 149th and 3rd. We take a right. We get up to this small little storefront. And it says Fashion Moda, M-O-D-A, in graffiti. That's the sign. So I'm like, what is this? I go in there. It's kind of like an art gallery where they're selling the art. You can go in, you can see a piece of graffiti you like, and you can buy it and, hang it up in your house. And I'm looking at all these paintings like, okay. And my man Rope, man, let me tell you something about leadership. This brother says this white man comes out who I suppose was the proprietor. Rope is gonna come on at another day and he's gonna break it down for you himself. And the white man comes out, he's happy to see my man Rope. He's like, hey man, you got something for me? He's like, yeah. So they kind of go off a little distance. I move away to give them, out of courtesy, give them their space. They talking business, And all I see is white man. He's looking at this is beautiful. The colors, the textures, the lines. Wow. He's going crazy, right? My man did this in 10, 15 minutes right off the cuff, family. And next thing I know, I see this white man going into his cash register or wherever, and 1, these are $100 bills. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He said, all right, man, you got something else for me? And let me know. Always a pleasure to see you. And we walk out the door. As we walk out the door, I'm turning around. That white man has got my man's graffiti art he just made. And he's trying to figure out where to put it. My mouth is to the ground. I'm like, wait a minute. You just took a blank piece of canvas and about 3 spray paint cans in 15 minutes and made a piece of art that this white man bought for $700 cash. blew my mind. We went downtown, needless to say, went to the movies all day. He treated me, we ate. But the lesson here is that it taught me for the first time, and I lived in Harlem. I went to 125th Street. I knew about book vendors and all that, but for the first time, right in my face from somebody I knew, it showed me you don't have to go to work for somebody. That you can actually take your talent and your gift and you can use it to generate money to take care of yourself and your family. That's the spirit of hip hop. All of that is hip hop, right? Because if there was no hip hop, there would be no graffiti, and my man Roper wouldn't have that as an avenue to make money. He showed me, he went and made that money that quick. I couldn't believe it. Off of something he loves to do that he could do in his sleep. And when he comes on, we'll show some of the cars he's done, the subway cars, the big pieces he's done. But that's all in the spirit of hip hop. It gave us a sense of get up, get out, and get something. You couldn't be lazy and be no hip hop artist. Can anybody bear witness to me? Because you know why I say that? Because you had to practice. I spent hours practicing, writing rhymes, books and notebooks and notebooks. You know those black and white composition books that you get in grammar school? I had books and books and books of those notebooks full of rhymes I wrote. Writing took a lot of time. Memorizing those rhymes took a lot of time. Coming up with the rhymes took a lot of time. And then what we used to do, and I'm pretty sure F Troop did too, but I know what I used to do, was we would go in a room, wherever we were, in a building room, whatever, and we'd be like, all right, go. Based on the stuff you see right in front of you, the people right around you, rhyme. So that wasn't something you could do from a page. You had to right on the spot talk about the girl, what she had on, how she looked to you, the telephone pole, the people playing football down the block, the old lady with the laundry basket coming across the street, dudes smoking weed, the cops across the avenue, right out your head. And we did this all the time, every day. So what happened is it made us mentally agile. So if we're in a battle, if somebody wanted to battle us on the spot, we didn't need days and weeks to write a rhyme. We would write right in the head. And let me leave you with this story to tell you about hip hop, man. What it meant to me is that, oh yes, peace, brother Michael Fredericks, always sending me the positive stuff in the inbox. Appreciate you, black man. Appreciate you. Peace be unto you as well. There was a brother named Jerry in Harlem. I don't think he was in a crew like I was. I think he was a solo MC. And I heard I saw him, he was talking, man, you ain't all that, you whack. He's like, what? I'm whack, man, you whack. And we going back and forth. So he's like, all right, we're gonna set a battle. But he would never set a day to battle me. He would never set a date or place to battle me. So one day I'm walking with a few people. I hope that Ross was there. I hope Ross is still on the thread. He could bear witness to this. I hope. I'm pretty sure it was Ross, Bevan, and somebody, at least TYE, F Troop. Some of F Troop was with me this night. We're walking up the block. Who do we see? We see Jerry. Right? So Jerry, he's walking by his side. I said, oh, what's up, yo? You talking all that mess. What's up? What's good? Let's see how nice you are right now. Say, no, but we got to set a date. I said, nah, we ain't setting no date in time. We're doing it right now because if you're a real MC, you can spit off the top of your head. Freestyling, family. True freestyling is you spitting something off the top of your dome right as you're going in that live time. Not you wrote a rhyme and you're spitting a rhyme that you wrote. A lot of what we call freestyle today is not really freestyling. That's somebody just reciting their poetry, their hip hop that they already wrote. But to really truly freestyle from the head is an art that everyone's not good at. Some people are really good at writing rhymes, writing them down and memorizing, but they're terrible at freestyling. And where we came up, it was like, no, you had to be able to write well and you had to be able to spit right out your head. So me and this dude, Jerry, and some of the F Troop group, please tell me somebody remembers this that was there if you're on the thread. We go by this post office on 146th Street. And the post office had this little stoop, like. So we all like kind of walk up on this stoop, and we got my man Mike used to do the beatbox for us. So he's doing the beatbox, and I'm tearing this dude up. His hat got holes in it, got paint on it. His lips is crusty. He looked crazy. So I'm going in on him. But I'm going in directly in live time based on what he got on, how he's looking right in the moment, because I'm going out the head. It's rhyming, it's making sense, it's on beat. He's trying to do some written rhyme. It ain't working because that written rhyme obviously cannot account for me in present time, right? So he's trying to do something written. I'm doing something live off the head, killing him. Now, as we're doing this, there's about 6, 7 of us on this post office stoop. It's kind of late. It's dark. And a cop car comes up alongside of us. This is a true story. And it's 2 black cops. And the cop rolls the window down and says, "Hey, what you dudes doing over there?" We said, "Oh no, we rhyming." So he's like, what you mean rhyming? Y'all getting into trouble, y'all gotta move. We said, no. We having a battle. What you mean battling? We said, nah, this is just words. We rhyming. He goes, then he goes, and it goes back and forth. And whoever's the best, we know by, people go, ooh, that was hot. He said, so there's no violence? I said, we like, no, man, it's rhyming. We're going back and forth with words. So they actually sat in the car while me and this dude Jerry are battling. So I'm snapping on his hat because it was terrible. It was holes, it had paint, whatever. I'm going in on him. And as the battle is ended, was like, so y'all see, what did y'all think? It's like, oh, that was all right. That was creative. They thought that we was there gonna fight or do something criminal, right? 2 black cops in their car. So they try to say, all right, fellas, that was good. Listen, you take care. You get home. Good night. Stay out of trouble. So they drive off. But then they reverse back. And the driver in the driver's seat rolls his window and says, by the way, my man, whatever your name is, your hat does look terrible. Get a new one. And they drove back off. Somebody's like, oh! So those are things that you can't make up. That's a real true story. Right? True story. And so hip hop gave people that sort of good times, good memories, but also gave you skills, the ability to write, to be literate, the ability to memorize, which helped me at the different colleges, the degrees I got helped me to memorize. You can memorize these long rhymes, man. You can memorize anything. It gave you confidence. It gave you some degree of what the young people call swag, right? It gave you this idea that no matter what, you're gonna be all right, and that's very important. I see Brother Marlon Townsend in the building. Peace to my brother Ross, who you see here as Avery says Rope was nice. Yes, he was. At breakdance, electric boogie, graffiti, DJ, he was hip hop. That's a fact. Brother Rope, we're gonna get Rope on here. We're gonna get Ross. We're gonna have you, F Troop. Brother Earl, I may have to do these one by one. Depends on your time and your schedule. But I'm going to get y'all on here because I want people, when we do history, it can't be the history of just great white men and rich people. The history has to include all people. So when we talk about hip hop's 50th birthday or anniversary, we got to talk about people like us. We wasn't rich or famous. But I do believe if F Troop would have had maybe the right people to listen to them, I think they would have been famous. I really do believe that. I really believe that. But we were practitioners of the craft. We were practitioners of the craft. We were emcees. We were writing all the time, practicing all the time, at parties all the time, battling people all the time. We were part of the movement and the culture. And you need to know how we saw it, not just how the famous and the rich people saw it. It's very important, Finn, that you understand what I'm saying on this, that you get it from the ground level, right? Because people have a way of changing up sometimes when they get rich and famous, if you know what I mean. And the story changes and their narrative changes. But we can tell you how we felt, how it felt to be there. You be dog fights. They have this pit bull named Amsterdam, be fighting this pit bull named Broadway, 2 big avenues in Harlem. And it'd be a dog fight in the park. And right after the dog fight, you rhyming at a jam in PS 153 Park. It's crazy, and there were people we looked up to. One of them was Kumo D, man, and the Treacherous Three, who lived. I know Kumo D lived about 120 something, lived close to us. If you were on a bike, you get there in 5 minutes. Car, you get there in 2. Grandmaster Cass and the Cold Crush Brothers. Before the Force MDs just became straight up singers, they were MCs, fam, in Staten Island. And they would be on the Staten Island ferry, which went back and forth between Staten Island and Manhattan, and they would sing. And singing is how they made money from the people on the boat, on the ferry. But they also rhymed. So they used to be known as the Force MCs. And then when they got a record deal, because they could sing too, really sing, they would battle you with rhymes and they would go into a routine. You know, when they battled Cold Crush, for instance, they did this Michael Jackson song, "You'll Always Be the Lady of My Life." They did a routine based on that same song, but with the different words. So at the end, they're like, "Cold Crush, you better give it up. You lost this battle, Cold Crush, better give it up." Like that, like a routine. They take songs that existed and they change the words but keep the melody. And girls loved it because like they mixed MCing with singing and love songs, right? They became the Force MDs, and you may know them from songs like "Let Me Love You in the Sunshine, Let Me Hold You," right? Or "Love Is a House." Remember that? They had hit about 4 or 5 hits as straight up pure R&B singers, but before that, they were hip hop MCs back in the day. People like yes, they was dope, Mike. Yes. And yes, they were clap. Yes. So it's showing you that a lot of people got their start in MCing. Who else do we have locally? I'm trying to think of and you know, in Harlem we had, because although hip hop started in the Bronx, we had some people in Harlem. I just told you Treacherous Three, Spoonie G. Yes, yes, y'all. To the beat, y'all. And then it rock you roll, and then we roll and rock, and then you rock to the, you know, remember that? Oh man. And the beat was don't don't don't. Who else did we have, man? With so many people. Curtis Blow was a very important Harlem MC. And the person you know is Dougie Fresh now. Doug used to be at the battlegrounds many times at Jerry Curls and Thick Gazelles back then. Gazelles was these designer glasses that had gold right here in this part, and they were kind of dooky and chunky. And sometimes people wore with the lenses out of them because they cost a lot. They were stylish, and people was getting beat up and robbed for them. Doug used to have on the Gazelles, you know, the Lee jeans. That's how we wore Lee jeans, permanent crease. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Permanent crease down the middle. Izod shirts, right? Um, y'all call them wife beaters today, but they might have been BVD shirts, had kind of looked silky, but cut like a tank top that brothers used to wear. Use it for do-rags as well. People had waves. I had waves back then that were 360 waves. Yes, I used to have hair on my head. That's right. Right? The Adidas. Run DMC made Adidas big for us, so we had Adidas. This is before Nikes. Nikes was just kind of starting out. They wasn't big yet until maybe the mid '80s when they signed a deal with Jordan. But so much was going on in terms of fashion. And another thing, hip hop took political positions. I remember when there was a lot of killing in the crack era and all that. So some of the concerned hip hop artists got together. Heavy D, MC Light, my brother Kumo D, D Nice, I think Stetsasonic, and a bunch of Miss Melody, I think KRS-One, and it was filmed right in my section of Harlem, Hamilton Heights or Sugar Hill, Harlem. So they were in Schomburg Library, they were by City College, and they were like a few blocks from my block, filming this. Self-destruction, you're heading for self-destruction. You remember that? Chuck D was there. I mean, it was hip hop, and they went on tour with this. The Stop, that's right, Michael Moore, Stop the Violence tour. And they went on tour with this, and they're kicking lyrics, encouraging Black unity and solidarity, encouraging peace and not to be violent with each other, encouraging us to read and to learn, encouraging a connection with Africa and our culture. It was a beautiful time. And this gave birth to so many groups: X-Clan, Public Enemy, Brand Nubian, Poor Righteous Teachers. I can go on and on. And even the ones that weren't the most overtly political weren't overtly negative. So Slick Rick wasn't talking about politics in Africa and Malcolm X, but he would say stuff like, hey, young world, the world is yours. Hey, young world, the world is yours, right? Which was stuff like, listen to your mother, stay away from dope and drugs, do good in school, work and be clean and healthy, right? So it wasn't overtly political revolutionary, but it was positive and uplifting. Then this gave birth to Queen Latifah, man. Who you calling a bitch? UNITY. See? It gave birth to a whole culture. And so those are some of my memories of hip hop. And that's kind of some of what hip hop made to me. There have been times when I was a student leader at Syracuse or a student leader at Cornell or a student leader or a leader in the community. And I've had to speak off the cuff. I wasn't prepared. So, hey, man, could you say a few words? And I didn't panic. I didn't get scared. It's because hip hop prepared me. I wasn't no better than nobody else, but hip hop prepared me to speak right off the cuff at the drop of a dime, as long as I knew something about the subject, right? That comes directly from hip hop. And I remember I was going, when I was young, like up to maybe middle school, 7th grade, I'm going to church and Sunday school. And I would come with my rhymes and I'd be outside the church. Yo, you want to hear my new joint? Check this out. And I have all my friends and they be, beatboxing. I spit my rhymes. It was a beautiful time. And mind you, this is in Harlem where there's gang violence galore, shootings, stabbings, people getting mugged, crack, violence, all types of stuff. But yet, even in that ugliness, there were pockets of beauty. And one of the pockets of beauty in Harlem, I know for me, was hip hop. I got to build with my brothers, F Troop Crew, Top Notch 3, different people, Jazzy Moto, DJ Dice. I got to give respect, my man, DJ Dice. There was so many of us, and we would hook up at each other's house, and we would practice. We wasn't robbing nobody. We wasn't hurting nobody. We were practicing what we viewed as a craft, an art form that we loved, and we defended it. We defended the art form. So people came up and they was whack. We let them know, yo, you need to brush up on that, bro, because when you out here, you representing Harlem, you representing your family, you understand. So it was a big deal. And I remember in high school, I went to Cardinal Hayes. I played football for Hayes, but also I was big on reading and vocabulary. And hip hop helped me with my vocabulary. I'm telling you, every time we learn new words in school, in class, I put those words in my rhyme. I put those words right in the rhyme. So I remember it was one that went to reiterate what I just did state. I don't view myself as good, but rather great. Reiterate. That was a word I learned in vocabulary class. Put that right in the rhyme. And it just made us creative. I had a one called, and I'm going to end on this. I had one. I remember, family, the cadence is different. We're talking about the 80s. So it wasn't as smooth as the cadence today, right? So it's going to sound choppier. It was called, it was about me going to Africa. I did an excavation, my friend and me. Oh, to find the Ark of MCs from past centuries. We went by plane to Africa, the motherland, and continued the journey in my caravan. Drank from the Nile River because there were no sinks. Took pictures of the pyramids and ate by the Sphinx. We started to dig, but the sand was too deep. Tried to climb this damn hill, but the shit was too steep. Then we got frustrated, fists ready to punch. Went to King Tut's tomb, but he was out for lunch. So we waited and waited. He still didn't show. We said later for this, and we proceeded to go. Played ball by the Sahara. There was no kind of breeze. Looked around for some shade, but said there was no trees. I forget. But what happens is the story goes, the brother that's with me is my friend. And we're on this expedition through Africa because we're told if we get to Egypt or Kemet, we'll find the Ark of MCs. And the Ark of MCs will reveal who is the best MC in the world. It would tell you if you found it. So we're going through all this, and it turns out that my friend wasn't really my friend. He was trying to betray me. So it's like is a part because I didn't smoke weed at the time. So he was like, he asked me, did I want some stuff? I said, you know that I don't puff. So trying to call my bluff. Don't you get enough? But what I didn't know and what I didn't see, this so-called friend was really my enemy. Remember that spliff that he wanted me to smoke? Let me tell you something, man. That was no joke. I wanted to make him think that I took a toke, but I gave it to a camel and the animal croaked. So you can imagine that I was angry. My friend, my homeboy betraying me, right? So I'm telling you the story. He gave me something to smoke. I said, I don't smoke. I gave it to a camel and it killed the camel. So in other words, my so-called friend was trying to kill me. He wanted to be the first to get to Arc of MCs. At any point, I get to this Arc of MCs. I beat up my friend and kill him. I get to the Arc of MCs. And basically, I found out when I opened it, there was a mirror inside the Arc of MCs. So as I saw my reflection, I knew immediately I wasn't always would be history's greatest MC. And you don't stop and you don't quit. QDS with that sure enough hit. So I'm telling you a story. I go through Africa. I got to find the Arc of MCs. Whoever finds it, they're going to find out who's the greatest MC of all time. And when I get to the Arc and open it, it's a mirror. Therefore, whoever finds it is the greatest MC of all time. And since I found it, I was the greatest MC of all time. So I had all types of story rhymes like that. How I created the mic, like God created the earth, I created the mic, all types of crazy stuff. I had something called about not to date girls that were much younger than you. That was not a good thing. All types of things. But the point is what hip hop meant to me. Whether I was good to people or not, it made me feel good. It gave me confidence. It helped me be good with words. Helped me speak in front, and I've spoken in front of thousands of people now. It helped me to write books and not care how many sell, how many people like it, what the criticism. I don't care. Hip hop made me immune to that. Because if you can say stuff off your head in real time in front of hundreds of people, you can say anything anywhere. If you can get over that fear, because one of the number one fears of the average human being is not getting shot. It's speaking in front of crowds. Did you know that? It's one of the number one fears of human beings, right? So if you can do that, hip hop made you immune, right? Because I just told you the story that I'm battling this dude and the cops are there and all that, right? So when I became a student leader at Syracuse and we're giving rallies off the top, man, we bringing it. We're bringing it to the people. Off the head, no written speeches. We wasn't reading no written speeches like the president does. The president reading the teleprompter right in front of him. We're saying stuff right out the head on the spot. And we're fighting for our Black Studies program at Syracuse. Our parents' generation fought to put it there, and our generation was fighting to keep it and build on it. Right? And guess what? They was reneging on their promises. The ceiling is falling down. The library's dilapidated. Books are destroyed. There's no professors, not enough classes, not enough Black students. So we launched a 1.5 year long protest and campaign to force this university to take care of Black studies. And analogies would just come out the head. White students eat the filet mignon of academia. And we Black Black students are forced to eat at the garbage can of academia. Where does that ability to use metaphor and allegory come from? It came from hip hop. It comes straight from hip hop, family. Very, very important. And I want to say the Freedom Power. Freedom Power says, I love it. Thank you for sharing all of that. You put a fresh historic indigenous perspective on this 50th hip hop anniversary. Thank you. That means a lot because that's exactly what I wanted to do. You just keep hearing it from the rich people who got mansions and yachts and 20 different wives and traveling the world. And their perspective ain't going to be the same as people who were close to it, who participated, didn't get a lot of money from it, didn't get famous from it, but it gave us meaning and it gave us hope. That was important. I remember, family, there was even a time I would put little rhymes. If there was a little girl I liked in middle school, I have a little rhyme and said, can I speak to you real quick? Pull a sister over and I give it a little kick, a little rhyme, and that meant something for him. It sounds cute and silly now, but that meant a lot because I was naturally shy. And people don't know I'm actually an introvert, right? An introvert is a person who processes the world internally in their head. And an extrovert is a person that processes the world externally. So extroverts, when they speak in front of crowds, they get energized. That turns them on. Introverts like me, when they speak in front of crowds, it drains them. They got to rest. It takes a lot, right? But I process the world internally. So I'll see something and I'll be thinking. When an extrovert sees it, they're speaking on it. Or when I'm washing up the house or doing something, I'm thinking in my head. But when my queen, she's not here at the time. When my queen is doing something, she's talking out loud. She's her thoughts out loud. I got to do this tomorrow. I got to remember. I got to call my. That's an extrovert, right? It's not somebody that's loud. It's somebody. It's how you process. So hip hop gave a person like me, who was an introvert and still is an introvert, a way to get out of my head sometimes, or take the things in my head and share them with others. Brother Moon, what's up, Brother Moon? He says him too. I guess I don't know if he's talking about the introvert extrovert part or whatever, but thank you, Brother Moon. Henny Miller in the building, peace. So that's pretty much what I have to offer. It really just, and then essay, it made me better with my literacy. I've written 5 books. What gave me the confidence to write books? Well, because I've probably written 100 books of rhymes, family. What I'm telling you, I mean, composition books. It got so bad, family. Let me tell you, this is a true story. I had 10, 20, 30, 40 composition notebooks full of rhymes. Some I didn't even get to really memorize. And then I had somewhere, I just had loose pieces of paper. I ran out of notebooks, didn't have the money to get the notebook at the time. And I had some blank paper, right? Or some loose leaf. And I wrote rhymes in that. And I would fold them up and put them in these plastic bags. And my mother came to me one day and said, "What's all this stuff in these bags up in your room?" My mother's very big on cleanliness, right? "What's all these bags doing in your room?" And I tried to explain. She didn't quite understand. "So you telling me that's all poetry?" I said, "Yeah, Ma. Why don't you write a notebook?" I said, "Yeah." And I pull out all these stacks. She said, "Mice are going to tear us up. We know we're in Harlem." I said, "You know, mice like plastic bags and old papers. You know that, right?" I said, "Yeah, Ma." And she just, one day, family, and my mother will give you the warning. And my mother's still alive. 82 years old, still alive. I'm blessed in that way. And my mother would give me warning. She was fair. She would beat my ass. The old school mom. But she would warn me. I'll give her that. She said, "Boy, I don't want no mice up in our apartment. I want to keep stuff clean. You better find a better way to store those rhymes, those little poems of yours. Because one day you're going to come in here and I'm going to throw all of that away." And guess what? You know how the story ends, right? One day I came in, my mother threw all of them away. She had warned me, gave me a few weeks. She figured, I warned you, I would find a way to deal with it. But I was a kid. You know how that goes, family. But yeah. And let me tell you something else. Hip hop is a document. It teaches you to document your thoughts, right? So, for instance, in the rhyme that I played for you earlier with me and my boys, I have a story where I'm telling you how I created the microphone, like God created the earth. So it's a metaphor. And I'm going through all of this, da 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 da. I'm documenting my feelings about stuff. And naturally, when hip hop took that left turn and got into the rape and the gangster culture and all that, and I wasn't really with that, it was perfect. It set me up to be a spoken word poet. So now I could be like, my words captivate, motivate, and stimulate your mental state with analogies that appease and please, kind of like rice and peas on your mental plate. Am I trying to insinuate that I'm so good, I'm great? Nah. I'm just laying down sounds using verbs and nouns that inspire and educate. Unlike those poorly prepared pontificating poets whose prose packs no punch because they're pulling punches instead of forcing the truth down your throat. Like the government does with free lunches. My hunch is my words are lyrics of fury that try and convict those the truth contradicts. So who needs a jury? My words disturb naive nerves from the suburbs and fake ghetto divas with magnificent curves. And so-called thugs used to shooting slugs and kicking chickens to the curb. And pompous politicians that forget who they serve. Right? So that spoken word poetry, that one is called braggadocious, comes right from hip hop. And let me tell you something else. When I became a classroom teacher for the first time in 1997, brand new to classroom teaching in the Bronx, gang infested school. They smashing teachers' windshields and their cars, family, slashing their tires. This is real talk. If they didn't like a teacher or whatever, that's what they did. Hip hop, my background and fluency with hip hop gave me a confidence. I fit right in. They loved me. It wasn't because I was no better than nobody. Hip hop did that for me. So at the end of classes, if we finished everything in class, I taught social studies, still do. I say, all right, last 5 minutes, those of you who spit, who have poetry or whatever, I'll give you a chance to say your poetry in class. So, of course, the students, it's the 8th grade, students jumped at that. It's like, yo, you cool. That was a hip hop sensibility. It wasn't just I was just wanted to waste time. I loved poetry and hip hop just as much as they did, right? And so we even had little play battles, right? And I said, as long as you're not inappropriate or disrespectful, we could do a play battle. And we would go back, me and the kids, the 8th grade students. So you see how that hip hop fluency and background, it created bridges. It broke down separation between me and the students because in me, they say, wow. And I was only 29 at the time when I became a teacher. So they saying like, wow, this dude listens to the music we listen to. I'm like, no, you listen to the music I listen to. Because when I was listening to it, you wasn't born yet, right? But that created bridges. It took down barriers, right? It actually put me in a position where when other teachers who were kind of older and kind of had the traditional older sensibility, you know, very strict and rigid and maybe not the most flexible minded, it put me in a position to be a bridge for them. When it got to the point they come to me and they say, Mr. T, oh, I'm reading Ross's comment. They'd be like, Mr. T, I can't handle this student, so. And I would talk to the student. I'd be able to communicate in a way that some of my other teachers who were kind of older and more traditional, they really couldn't get to them. Because I'm part of the original hip hop generation, the generation that started hip hop. I guess you could say, correct me if I'm wrong, Ross. I think you would say that my uncle, my big brothers, if I had a big brother, created hip hop. I was in elementary school. I was a little child when hip hop started. I was born in 68. I know some people say it was born in 74, 75, but I know people say that in 70, 71, people were rhyming. It's just that it wasn't widespread and it wasn't recorded. Right? So the hip hop, it made me a better teacher. It made me think differently. So when I was in social studies, unlike my boring history teacher in high school or middle school, I used political cartoons. I used hip hop lyrics. I had one class where I actually, and this was a high school, I had to get parents' permission because there was some profanity and whatever in it. And it was a sociological lesson to teach. The point was, from an insider's view, what is the difference between how black people look at the world and how privileged white people look at the world? That was the objective of the class. And I used Jay-Z's song, Black, Young, and Gifted. And we printed the words out, we lined the numbers, we played the song 3 times for them to listen to, then listened to it by reading the lyrics, and then we discussed it. And what's Jay-Z say? I'm America's worst nightmare. I'm young black there holding my nuts like cheer. When you're always in the club having when you're always in the pub having a light beer, I was at the club having a fight there. Y'all can go home, husband and wife there. My mama's at work trying to buy me the right gear. 9 years old, Uncle lost his life here. Grew up thinking life ain't fair. How can I find a real job? China white, heroin, right there. sell me, you go bye-bye here. Yeah. There's a different type of rules we go by here. You need a gun. Niggas might drive by here. Y'all having fun. Racing on your hot rods there. Downloading all our music on your iPods there. I'm Chuck D standing in the crosshairs here. Y'all straight. Chicks got horsehair here. I mean, what he's doing is telling you how black people and white people view the world differently because of our social, economic, and political circumstances, right? Now, that's going to get that point across better than me doing it the clinical, traditional, orthodox social studies teacher way. And as a result, my students never forgot those lessons. I run into students at different times and they remember my Bill of Rights song. You know, I made a song that helped people understand the Bill of Rights based on the 12 days of Christmas. So the first U.S. right guaranteed to you and me, speech, religion, press, and assembly. The second U.S. right guaranteed to you and me, right to own a gun, and speech, religion, press, and assembly. See, so it goes up, and you repeating it, it goes down. And then we get to number 5, the fifth U.S. right guaranteed to you and me, won't snitch on me, right? You have the right not to self-incriminate, right? And it goes back. No search and seizure, no housing soldiers, right to own a gun, and speech, religion, press, and assembly. So hip hop gave me that sensibility to look at the world in a different way, in a creative way that used more modalities than just speech. It used cartoons, we use hip hop lyrics, we use magazine articles, we use just about everything. Films, of course, film reviews, section excerpts of films, poetry, to help students understand. And as a result, those students owned the knowledge. I ran to a student, Mr. T, what's up, yo? I said, hey, what's up, man? He said, man, Mr. T's with his little daughter. I taught this boy in 8th grade, with a little daughter, little cute little thing. He says, Mr. T, I still remember my Bill of Rights. And he starts singing the song. He says, I know my rights because of that song. It's in his head. It's a jingle. You remember things easier with music. So hip hop, man, I could go on and on. I'm not gonna waste your time. It meant so much to me, and I couldn't probably tell you enough about exactly what hip hop meant to me, how it empowered me, how it protected me, how it gave me weapons to fight with and a shield to protect myself with, how it made me like a turtle, tough on the outside, tender on the inside, sympathetic and compassionate, and ready to stick my neck out like a turtle, like Barbara Dick Gregory told us. Hip hop played a large part in that, in my politics and how I deliver my politics, confidence, and creativity, family. And so this is the first episode in Hip Hop 50 series. In subsequent episodes, I kicked it off, but in subsequent episodes, I'm going to take you to some of my brethren who were graffiti artists. I'm going to have some graffiti artists on. We're going to have some MCs on. We're going to have some DJs on. And hopefully they're all going to give you a sense of what hip hop meant to them on the ground level in real time.